Zara Johnson was a beautiful 12-year-old girl born into a wealthy family. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, lived in a grand mansion in Abuja. Her father was the CEO of a successful company, and her mother worked with him. Zara had everything a child could dream of: a loving family, all the toys and clothes she wanted, and a carefree life. Her days were filled with laughter and joy, and she never had to worry about anything. Life took a tragic turn when Zara's mother fell ill. It started with small headaches, but soon, the doctors diagnosed her with brain cancer. Zara's heart sank when she heard the news. She visited her mother in the hospital every day, holding her hand, hoping that things would get better. But after months of battling the illness, Mrs. Johnson passed away. Zara cried her heart out, feeling a deep void in her life. Her father was equally devastated, and their once happy home turned into a place of sadness. Months after Mrs. Johnson's death, Mr. Johnson introduced a tall, elegant woman named Nelly to Zara. "Hi, Zara, I'm Nelly," she said with a smile. But Zara couldn't hide her discomfort. She gave a fake smile and walked away. She wasn't ready to accept someone else in her mother's place. Despite Zara's cold reaction, Mr. Johnson explained that Nelly would soon become a part of their family. Mr. Johnson married Nelly a few months later. At first, things seemed fine. Zara slowly began to warm up to her stepmother, even starting to like her. Nelly was kind and gentle, and for a while, their home regained some of the happiness it had lost. But Zara still missed her mother deeply. Out of nowhere, Nelly's attitude changed. Once her father left for work, Nelly became a different person. She began giving Zara smaller portions of food, making her do all the house chores, and speaking to her harshly. Zara was shocked. The woman who had once been kind was now treating her like a maid. Zara cried many nights, longing for her mother. Whenever Zara tried to gather the courage to tell her father about how Nelly was treating her, Nelly would threaten her. "If you ever tell your father what happens when he's not home, I'll make sure you regret it," Nelly would say. Zara was terrified. The fear of her stepmother kept her quiet, even though the pain she felt was growing. Zara knew she couldn't live like this forever. She missed the love and care she used to have with her parents. She decided to make her father see the truth about Nelly. She planned to make Nelly look bad in front of him, hoping it would make her father reconsider his decision to marry her. One morning, Nelly was ironing Mr. Johnson's clothes when Zara sneaked in and knocked the iron over, causing the clothes to burn. When Nelly screamed, Mr. Johnson came rushing in. Seeing the burnt clothes, he sighed and told Nelly, "It's okay. Just be more careful next time." Zara was disappointed that her plan didn't have a bigger effect, but she knew she had to be patient. Determined to expose Nelly further, Zara took her plan to the next level. That evening, while Nelly was cooking, Zara snuck into the kitchen and poured a large amount of salt into the jollof rice. When they sat down to eat, Mr. Johnson tasted the food and immediately spat it out. "What is this? Are you trying to poison me and my daughter?" he yelled. Nelly was shocked and kept apologizing, saying it was a mistake. But Mr. Johnson was visibly upset. Zara was secretly pleased with herself. Her plan was working. Nelly started getting more frustrated, knowing that Zara was behind the incidents, but she couldn't prove it. Zara pretended to be innocent whenever her father was around, which made Nelly look more incompetent. One night, Nelly tried to confront Zara in her room. "I know you're behind all this," she hissed. Zara didn't flinch. "If you touch me or say anything to Dad, I'll tell him everything you've done to me," she replied calmly. Nelly was furious, but she knew Zara had the upper hand. As the days passed, Mr. Johnson began to grow more frustrated with Nelly. She seemed to be making more mistakes, and he couldn't understand why things were going wrong. Zara, on the other hand, continued to act innocent, which made her father question his decision to marry Nelly. With each small victory, Zara grew more confident. She started finding more subtle ways to make Nelly look bad in front of her father, and Nelly's temper grew worse by the day. Mr. Johnson started coming home earlier, noticing how tense things were between Zara and Nelly. One evening, Zara purposely knocked over a precious vase in the living room and blamed it on Nelly. When Mr. Johnson saw the shattered vase, he was furious. Nelly tried to explain, but Zara played the victim, making it seem like she had no part in the incident. Mr. Johnson scolded Nelly harshly. Nelly was at her breaking point. She had tried everything to maintain peace in the house, but Zara's manipulations were pushing her to the edge. She knew that if things continued this way, Mr. Johnson might leave her. One day, after another argument between Mr. Johnson and Nelly, he realized that his marriage was falling apart. He couldn't understand why Nelly had changed so much since they got married, but he knew Zara had never caused any problems before. Nelly begged Mr. Johnson for one last chance, but by this point, he had made up his mind. He couldn't tolerate the constant issues any longer. He told Nelly that it was best for her to leave, as their marriage was no longer working. Nelly left the house in tears, knowing she had lost. When Nelly finally left, Zara felt a huge sense of relief. She had succeeded in getting rid of her stepmother, and life returned to how it had been before Nelly came into their lives. Her father was once again focused on her happiness. With Nelly gone, Mr. Johnson and Zara's bond grew even stronger. They spent more time together, and Mr. Johnson showered Zara with love, making sure she had everything she needed. The pain of losing Mrs. Johnson was still there, but their family was healing. Zara and her father lived happily together once again. Though they had faced tragedy and difficult times, they emerged stronger. Zara never forgot the lessons she learned during that period, and she was grateful to have her father by her side once more. The mansion in Abuja was filled with love and laughter once again, just as it had been in the past.